Welcome to lesson 2.6 of the Survey of Mathematics. Today we're going to be talking about variations of conditional statements. In the last several lessons we've been looking at truth tables and we've been talking about conditional statements, if-then statements. Today we're going to be discussing some variations with those if-then statements. So for instance, if I have the statement if P then Q, P is known as the antecedent. Sometimes it's called the hypothesis. And then the Q portion, the then portion of our statement, is known as the consequent. This is easy to remember because if you have ever been told to do something, they may have said something like, if you don't do this, then this will happen. And that this will happen is the consequence of you not doing what you're supposed to do. If portion is called the antecedent, the Q portion is the consequent. In our example of if you empty the dishwasher, then you can have ice cream, you emptying the dishwasher is the antecedent, and you having ice cream is then the consequence. So today we're going to be looking at three different variations of this. The first one is called the converse statement. In a converse statement, we are switching the antecedent and the consequent. So as our example, instead of saying if you empty the dishwasher then you can have ice cream, I would say if you have ice cream then you empty the dishwasher. So we are simply switching those two pieces around. What would be the converse statement of if you don't clean your room, you cannot go out? Well, the converse statement would be if you don't go out, then you did not clean your room or you cannot clean your room. So the converse statement is switching the two phrases. The next type, the next variation we look at is the inverse statement. The inverse statement is when we take our original statement and we negate both pieces of it. For instance, if P then Q becomes if not P, then not Q. Using our dishwasher example, if you empty the dishwasher you can have ice cream suddenly becomes if you do not empty the dishwasher then you cannot have ice cream. What would be the inverse statement if you don't clean your room, you cannot go out? Well, that would be if you clean your room, then you can go out. So we are just negating both sides, we're not switching them around. Converse statement, we switch the two phrases. Inverse statement, we're negating both phrases. So that brings us to our third and final variation, that is known as the contrapositive. The contrapositive is the combination of both the inverse and the converse. With the converse, we switch the two around. The contrapositive, we're going to switch the two around. In the inverse, we negate both phrases. In the contrapositive, we also negate both phrases. So the statement if P, then Q becomes if not Q, then not P. Using our dishwasher example, if you empty the dishwasher, then you can have ice cream, now becomes the contrapositive of if you do not have ice cream, then you cannot empty the dishwasher. So what would be the contrapositive of if you clean your room, then you can go outside? Well, we would switch the two phrases and we would negate both of them. So it would become if you cannot go out, then you cannot clean your room. So just as a quick summary today, just as a review of what we covered today, we learned three variations of a conditional statement. The first variation was called the converse. So if our original statement is if P then Q, the converse switches the two around and says if Q then P. The inverse statement is going to take the original and negate both. So if P then Q becomes if not P, then not Q. And then we have the contrapositive statement, which switches the two, the antecedent and the consequent, around, and it also negates both pieces, so it becomes if not Q, then not P.